Yoga can change the world, or it can be one more thing for personal gain. Yoga can be the doorway for humanity to feel alive, or the doorway to a gym of reps and sets for six-packs. Yoga can teach us to go further into our mission than ever before, or it can fall short. It can be a cry to unite, rung with love, or yet another competition to divide. Yoga can be wrong, or it can be right. It can awaken the part of the human spirit that dreams, or it can put us to sleep. Yoga can be a movement or just movement. It can be the answer or part of the problem, our hope or the reason for our despair. Yoga can be bigger than us or just about us. New eyes or a costume we wear as disguise, our liberation or our cover-up. I can't stress it enough. Yoga can change the world, or it can stand on the side watching, waiting for the courage to be bold, waiting to have the energy to care about what really matters in a world drowning in what doesn't. Yoga can change the world, or it cannot. Today, on the Leadership and Yoga podcast, Poetic, deep inspiration for yoga teachers to remind you that yoga can change the world. Sit back, relax, but also lean in. Hey, Leadership and Yoga fam. How have you been liking my little intros with music? Do we like the music vibe, or is it too much? I don't know. I'm really into it. So I don't know if I can be convinced otherwise, but thank you for being here for this episode. And I'm really looking forward to reading you some of my poetry about yoga specifically in this episode. I thought it would be a really cool idea to actually share all of this poetry with you in one place, because many people in the interwebs on Instagram and on TikTok have been asking if they can use this poetry that I've written to share with their students at the end of class. And I was like, yes. First of all, that is like the greatest honor, and also gives me so much hope. Not just for my own self or that my writing is good or anything like that, but I also have written all of these things because I want to try to capture what yoga does for me. And if you're here, I'm sure that yoga does a little something for you too. So you can probably relate. And yeah, I hope that today's episode leaves you feeling inspired and fired up to continue your yoga practice. Maybe you're not even a yoga teacher yet, but if you're not even a yoga teacher yet, this is going to be even more fuel to the fire to just continue your practice. And I have to share with you that I'm drinking a little bit of cinnamon tea here because I need to calm myself down. This has been one of the most exciting days, y'all. I've been jumping up and down on numerous different occasions. There are so many things happening, and I'm channeling this feeling of inspiration into you right now. I'm feeling so much momentum and so many things that I would not have even believed could happen 3 years ago when I started this podcast. So I'm just so excited. Let me have a sip of tea. And if you're listening, maybe you have a moment too where you can listen to this podcast, get yourself a little cup of tea. Maybe you want to take a bath. Maybe you want to light a candle and grab your notebook and see if you feel inspired to write anything of your own while we are going into this writing. But to give you kind of an idea of the structure of the episode, I'm going to share with you various different short pieces of my own writing about yoga. And they'll be in different categories, ranging from the ritual aspect and the own personal enjoyment aspect of the yoga to the impact that the yoga can have on other people and on the world as a whole. And then at the end, I'm going to share 3 poems that are deeply inspiring me this past month. So you're going to want to stay tuned for that one. I'm actually saving my favorite piece of my own poetry as well for last, which I know you may say, like, why would you do that? You just want us to stay? And you might be right, honestly. But at the same time, I want to end with a bang because my end goal of this episode is to give you a little bit of the feeling that I'm having right now. And the reason why is because I used to listen to other people and their podcasts when I was so far away from being at all the kind of person that I am now and being where I am at in my life and in my business. And I want to bring that to you, even if you are worlds beyond where I'm at in other areas of business and life. Great, but I feel right now that I'm in a moment where my upper limit threshold is being stretched, and what I thought was the ceiling of possibilities and the normalcy is actually not at all that. And the things that I used to say are crazy or that's crazy, I'm actually trying to remove that phrase because it's actually not crazy. And it's not crazy at all if you have a sort of dream or an idea or a vision that you feel like is crazy. I encourage you to X out that saying it's crazy and just put it's fantastic or whatever else, but it's not something that you can say, I don't believe it or I can't believe it. You can believe it. And I believe in you. All right, that's getting a little bit cheesy. So before we get into all of the lovely poetry that we have for you today, I have multiple things to tell you. I have things to literally give you that I'm really excited about. And so, if you are a fan of the podcast, or maybe this is your first podcast, but you're like, she seems like a great, nice person, then you will stay for this little portion of the podcast because it really helps me out, y'all. And I would be super, super excited if you will just listen to these next couple announcements that I have for you. Announcement number 1. Oh, before I forget, actually, can you also make sure that you are subscribed to my podcast and that you've dropped me a rating and that you consider sharing this podcast on social media? Each and every time one of you shares it on social media, I also jump up and down and dance. And I would love to just spend my entire day dancing. So if you want to make me dance, quite literally, share this episode to your stories or one of your other favorite episodes if you like another one better than this one. First thing is that I have a signed copy of David Swenson's new book to gift to one of you. And I'm kind of jumping the gun a little bit on this one because that new episode that I just flew to Austin to interview David, it's going to be live next week, but I'm going to drop the link so that way you're hearing about it now. And if you want to take that moment to potentially enter to win a signed copy of his book with a little note from him personally. Maybe you're a longtime Ashtanga practitioner and you know who he is. If you're not sure who he is, then I guess you'll find out next week, or you can go back and listen to the interview that I did with him already. All right, we've got one more announcement, and then I actually have a second giveaway for you. But first is this announcement from one of my sponsors of this podcast, Offering Tree. And Offering Tree is an online software specifically designed for yoga teachers. So fellow yoga teachers, I'm speaking to you. You get a complete scheduling and booking. You get payment processing that works with ease, a professional website that you can actually control and update anytime you want to, unlimited email marketing, and support from real humans that work at Offering Tree who know your name, and it's all in one place. They even have office hours, so if you want to go and ask any questions that you have and get a free trial and just try it out, see for yourself, the link for that is in the show notes. And drum roll please, there's also a winter special right now, which is 50% off your first 2 months or 20% off the annual plans, which is up to $540 in savings, ladies and gentlemen. This special only runs through December 15th. So if you're listening to it before then, you are in luck for that. And please remember to tell them that Shauna from Leadership and Yoga sent you. Next up, and my final announcement, another giveaway. This is the giveaway I've been telling you about that I'm working on with my friend Art, who has created Tend. Tend is a zero-waste home and body care brand rooted in Ayurveda, and it was born right here in the Pacific Northwest. I have loved getting and using Tend products over the last year. I always keep one of the little ritual oils right by my bedside. It has become one of my rituals to just give myself a little self-massage before going to bed. And if you win the giveaway, you're not only going to get a set of head to toe oils, so oil for your hair, for your face, for your body. You're also going to get a set to gift to a friend because the greatest joy is in the giving. Am I right? And it's just on time for the holidays. So head on over to the link in the show notes if you would like to enter to win that little goodie bundle. I hope the luck is on your side. You can tend yourself and tend a friend with these products that are made with such intention and an invitation back into a slower way of living. And remembering that self-care is not something we have to rush through. It's something that reshapes how you feel in your body and even how you experience your life. Thank you for listening to that. And as we get into the episode, we're going to start with poems that are love poems, but not love in the typical sense that you may think of the word love. It's love for yoga. And I'm going to start with the poem that started it all. Not that this is something that's been going on for a really, really long time, but this is one of the first ones that I wrote that I realized, wow, I actually want to channel my focus to writing specifically about yoga. And it goes like this. I am falling in love with my practice like I never have before. I don't feel like I should see her. I hunger for her. I have passionate encounters with her in 15 minutes between calls. I lose sleep for her. And I sneak away from my responsibilities to see her. She brings me a simple kind of ecstasy, and when I don't have her, I'm antsy. I think about her without trying. She makes me see my dreams and fills my mind with ideas. I learn things about life that no one else has ever told me from the hours she's spent holding me. I'm falling for her because even more than she knows me, she helps me know myself. I had the idea for this when I was actually having the sensation of falling back in love with my practice, because I don't know if you can relate to this, but I go through these phases, these sort of honeymoon phases with my practice, and nothing about my practice changes that dramatically. But when I kind of get back in the swing of the yoga, I think about it absolutely without trying, and I just want to sneak in little bits of the yoga. And I almost pictured it like it's like this love affair with the yoga, and I just can't quite help myself. So I framed it in the way of speaking to the yoga like it was a woman, like a person, a thing that I just was craving. And it really speaks to the magnetic portion of the yoga, the magnetic feeling that sometimes yoga brings me. When I first tried yoga, I didn't get this feeling, by the way. I really actually started to get this feeling once I saw yoga through other people's eyes. And actually, there was this very specific video that I remember seeing from Kayla Nielsen back in the day, long before I ever interviewed her or before I had the idea for this podcast. And I was sitting in a cubicle working at a law firm. I had just graduated from college, and I had all these big dreams of how I wanted to change the world and I wanted to do all of these amazing things. And I was feeling like sitting in this cubicle and working this particular job where all I had to do was file a couple pieces of paper every single day was making me question everything about myself. And I was feeling really down. I was sleeping on my breaks. I was so bored that I would have to go into the bathroom and do jumping jacks and squats in order to wake myself up, right? So that's what you can imagine. And thank goodness I somehow came across the yogis of Instagram. And I saw this particular video, I can still vividly remember it, where Kayla Nielsen is doing these spinal rolls. And she's like in this jungle spot with the sunset behind her. It's just spectacular. And I was like, man, yoga looks sexy. Like, I want to do that. That looks amazing. That looks magnetic. And obviously, that's just a video, but it captures for me long before I ever had the experience of falling in love with my practice. I started to see the practice in a way that I hadn't before. And so the purpose of this piece, I guess, could be to help us and help other people see the practice in that way if they haven't seen it that way before. The second poem on the love of yoga. I want to remember why I fell in love with yoga, why I brought her flowers and told her she changed my life even before she did. I want to remember those mornings when she got me out of bed when nothing else could. I want to remember the relief of her embrace and how she taught me to look in the eye that which I could not face. I want to remember the call of her movement and music that became my obsession. The nights I went to sleep not counting sheep, but rather the hours until I'd see her again. I want to remember what my soul felt in those early days. The joyful urgency with which my dehydrated soul chugged down anything yoga. I want to remember the way yoga was bliss, the way water tastes like bliss when you're thirsty. I want to remember the way yoga taught me to love it all again. So when you listen to that, you're listening to the feeling of yoga reminding me of what it feels like to love life, to love myself, to love the mornings even, which is crazy that I can wake up actually excited without having anything in particular to be excited about. Not every day, but many days. And when I say that she got me out of bed when nothing else could, I'm speaking about a moment when I was really in a low place. And at that time, my husband had written me this letter because I kept asking him, what is the purpose of all of this? And I had not yet, of course, found my yoga practice and committed to it. And I was feeling really lost and nothing was really wrong, but I didn't feel a sense of purpose, and not feeling purpose was like throwing gasoline on the struggles that I was having with mental health at that time. Not feeling connected to myself, not feeling present was really like throwing gasoline on a fire. And so there were two things that happened. I decided that I was going to read that letter that he gave to me every single day, and that I was going to use that inspiration to get on my mat, and I was not going to miss a day. I did YouTube videos. I basically found all of these yogi influencers videos and I just replicated what they were doing. And I read Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself by Joe Dispenza, and I journaled and I watched clouds and I laid on my mat, at least at a bare minimum, for many, many months. And the person that is speaking to you today did not exist before that happened. So when I talk about how yoga became my obsession, or this joyful urgency with which my dehydrated soul chugged down anything yoga, it was how I was so grateful for yoga as this positive influence, this magnetic feeling in my life, and the awakening of that magnetic feeling when I didn't feel that for really anything else in my life at that time. And what I didn't know is that that feeling would spill over into every other area of my life, because what was really happening was that I was raising my level of energy. I was raising my frequency, and I can trace the root of that ability to even raise my energy and to start to make those positive changes which spill over into everything else in my life, in our lives, was yoga. Here are 3 more short poems about yoga being a ritual for living. And not that it really matters, but for way of my own memory, if I ever listen to this when I'm an old grandma. But this is the one that first got lots of traction on social media. You go to yoga at first because you want something from it. But slowly, yoga changes you and you realize that what you used to want is not actually what you want at all. As you go more, it becomes what you wake up for. Because more than using yoga for something, yoga is a ritual done for the joy of doing it. You realize that yoga isn't something that you can go to and then leave behind. It's a ritual for living, too. You catch a glimpse of it in your morning tea, and then in the breeze. It's everywhere, and it wasn't even what you were looking for. I'm going to read all of these pieces, and then we'll talk about it. You can't do yoga. Yoga is a ritual, like flowers placed in a special way on the table just because that's what yoga is. It's not doing yoga like yoga was just another thing you have to do. It's being in the yoga, immersed, like standing in the ocean up to your neck in water, not sure where your body ends and the yoga begins, not sure where the yoga ends and life itself begins. Yoga is eyes for finally seeing the ritual that is life. And more than what yoga can do for us, it's about feeling called to be part of something much bigger and wiser than ourselves. It's the feeling of knowing you're never alone, even when you're standing on your mat at home, lifting your arms towards the sky in unseen unison with the millions who wake to salute the sun. Together, that is how the ritual of yoga is done. And this final one, about the idea of yoga as more than just a practice and more of a ritual, is actually the very first one that I ever posted, I do believe. The yoga doesn't start when you get to the mat. The yoga starts when you light incense before you do the dishes, and when you clean your face and your space, when you say, "I'll start small no matter how long it takes," and when you walk slower on your way to class, when you stop worrying about going first for fear of what will be left if you go last. It starts when you make everybody feel like a somebody, and when you pick wildflowers for the table just because. It starts when you stop waiting and instead start seeing yoga in everything. When you start seeing yoga in everything. I have to credit this original idea of yoga as a ritual to one of my teachers, Troy Lucero, who's a wonderful teacher in the Seattle area. You can always look him up, and I highly recommend going and practicing with him. But I believe one day I asked him his definition of yoga, or maybe he just shared it with me, because I was really asking all of these questions about what yoga can do for us and if it's good for us to do this and that. And he basically explained to me this idea of, hey, if If you were going to go skiing, for example, you're going to go snow skiing, which I don't know what that's like because I've never been snow skiing, actually. Fun fact, I am a water skier. I love water skiing, but I've never been snow skiing. So maybe I should use water skiing as an example. But when we go skiing, no matter what kind of skiing you're doing, you're going for the joy of it. Maybe you would go for the workout, but generally speaking, I think we're there for the joy, for the sensation, for the rush of it. And that's why we can do yoga too. And that speaks to our enjoyment of it, but it also speaks to how we move. There's such a difference when you do something with the intention of having it be like a ritual, like tea, for example. You can boil some water quick. You could microwave water. Oh, what a thing. I don't like doing that at all. But imagine the difference. Let's say you microwave water, you're rushing around, you grab a tea bag and you throw it in the water and then you run out the door. Versus you boil some water, you put on some nice music, you set out your cup and your teapot and your loose leaf tea, and you pour a little bit of the tea in and you smell the tea and you feel the aroma and you just stand there and you sort of watch water boil, which is a fascinating thing to do if you haven't done it in a while. And when the water is ready, and only when the water is ready, you pour it in just a little bit at a time and you cover your tea and you sit and wait, and maybe you put your hands on the top of the teapot and you feel the warmth and you breathe the warmth into your body even before you take a sip of the tea. That's a ritual. And that's how we can also practice our yoga if we want to. That's really how yoga is most impactful, not only for us, but for other people and for the world. So here are two pieces on yoga and impact, and then I will share a little bit about my mission behind the Leadership in Yoga podcast and everything that I'm doing because it relates to this subject. Sometimes when I do yoga, I stop worrying about myself and start wondering about how others are feeling. I ask how I could be the biggest light, not receive the spotlight. Sometimes yoga clears enough space that ideas start to pour in. I start to wonder how I might do the most, not the least, even if it is an outlandish inconvenience to me. I start to dream a dream in which everything is about giving, and individual wellness and prana and health are the starting point for impact, not just the end goal. Where the yoga is the means, not just the ends, where money and platform don't matter without meaningful words and missions. If you will allow me to just give a little social commentary here, I feel like we've got things a little bit mixed up. I don't think there's anything wrong with celebrating things like earning money and having followers and platform, but that is the means, not the ends. It's really important to have a mission and an idea of impact, even for your own, even if it's from your own selfish desire, right? To be happy. And I'm not saying that it's wrong to want to be happy, but if we're constantly chasing this endless cycle of self-improvement and self-discovery and happiness, and we're not turning our eyes and our attention to the fact that true happiness flows from altruism like water from a spring. true happiness flows from altruism, like water from a spring. It's a quote from the Gene Keys by Richard Rudd. And since I know that there are a lot of folks actually who listen to this podcast that English is not your first language, if you're not sure what the word altruism means, it means basically that you are acting selflessly, that you're doing things for other people just for the sake of doing things for other people, not to get anything in return. So people need to feel good. We need to be at a certain level of wellness and stability in order to see clearly and to have the energy to make an impact and go out into the world and to do things. But I see a lot of times we're getting stuck as finding the ultimate state of wellness and the ultimate state of peace, and the good vibes only is the final resting place. And when we look at it that way, we are missing a hell of a lot of opportunity for our own growth, for the growth of others, and for change in the world. When I spoke to you earlier about my desire to change the world when I graduated college, it was because I studied international studies. And I wanted to work for United Nations. I wanted to be in the State Department. I thought maybe I would be an immigration attorney. And when I found this experience that I had with yoga, and I realized how much energy it gave me and how much it changed my emotional intelligence and my ability to interact with others and operate in the world from a much more compassionate, loving, and present state, I started to dream about what would happen if I taught yoga or meditation to world leaders. Now, with the Leadership and Yoga podcast, that was one half of the equation. It was exactly that. It was for more yoga in leadership and also better leadership techniques and skills in the yoga world, which is an episode for another time. But one half of the goal of the Leadership and Yoga has always been that. And now I don't think I'm going to be the one to do it, and I don't need to be the one to do it. You all are going to do it because you are touching so many people in your classes, people that you have no idea who they are, where they are going, and who else they are going to touch with their ripple effect. We all have 1,000 people within 3 degrees of us, despite, let's just set aside the whole idea of followers and all of that business. You, even if you did not have social media, would have 1,000 people within 3 degrees of you. First degree is all of your friends, your family, and the people that you immediately interact with. Second degree would be like your friend's partner. The third degree would be your friend's partner's coworker. And it can go much further than that, by the way. But at least people within 3 degrees of you are being in some way influenced and shaped by you. So imagine you have this incredible privilege and also responsibility of teaching barefoot adults who are not distracted, without their phones, hopefully not checking their annoying Apple Watches. But for the most part, you have this opportunity to be with people in a moment of presence in a world where that is incredibly rare. And you can say whatever you want to them. For the most part. Don't quote me on that. Shauna said I could do whatever I wanted, and I said this really crazy thing, and now I don't have a teaching job anymore. No, I'm not also suggesting that we push our beliefs on people, but rather that we facilitate exceptional classes, the best that you can do. And as you do that, people will feel it. They might start to change. Things about their outlook on the world might be transformed through presence alone. The yoga speaks for itself, you know. So that's enough of that preaching. But that gives you an idea of why I'm saying that yoga teachers are uniquely positioned to change the world. Let's continue. Yoga sees things in me that are sometimes hard to see in myself. It sees my potential. It sees two me's, higher me and human me, the me who lives in love and changes the world, and the me who hides in fear. Yoga sees that I am constantly one practice away from forgetting it all, or one practice away from forever changing my life. One class or one meditation away from who I am becoming, or one away from falling off. Yoga sees that I am constantly between both worlds, and it sees that I am building a bridge despite it all. Despite it all. This speaks to the internal battle that we have, that constant evolution of trying to do our best when that's not necessarily the default. It's not necessarily what's easiest. Sometimes it is, but not always. Wow, that was fast, at least for me, because we have arrived to our final category, acceptance and growth simultaneously. So both accepting where you are, which is kind of the foundation for change, is to look at it in the eyes and be like, holy shit, this is where I'm at. Great, good to know that. So let's see where I can go from there. Acceptance and growth. You can't be your old self when you do yoga. You can't be the version of you that your knee didn't crack, your skin wasn't scarred, and your back didn't ache. You can't go back to the good old days or days when you didn't have worries or feel the weight of the world. Because you fall off of the yoga when you get lost thinking about how things could have been. When you do yoga, when you really do yoga, you continue as you are. And you realize that's exactly what you have been hoping for all along. This is about our bodies and the things that have happened to us. And I used to feel really sad about, and I mean, I don't even mean this in like aging or saying that I'm old or something, but just the passage of time and the way that we get kind of dinged up by things. And yes, some things heal, but some things never fully do. And so I'm talking about a couple of things here, just mostly the imperfections that we all have, the speed bumps that each and every one of us has and each and every one of our students has. I'm speaking about a knee injury that I had that completely took me out of my practice and ultimately made me pause long enough that I started breath work, which changed my life, and I started a podcast, which has definitely also changed my life. I'm speaking about scars, the scars that I had from when I had really, really terrible acne, and the choice that I made not to get any work done or laser or anything like that. Learning to love and to share the parts of me that I don't really always like, or the angles of myself that I don't always like, because I saw a lot of perfect people creating content. And it almost made me believe that I couldn't do it too. It almost got me. It may be getting you too. But it didn't. So I'm speaking to that imperfection and, yeah, of not romanticizing past eras of my life. Not romanticizing the decision I didn't make. Being a bit more decisive in my acceptance of where I'm at and continuing exactly as I am. Yoga never lies. It will not obscure how you're feeling inside. It's not something to hide behind or a shot of something strong to mask it all. It's a magnifying glass. It's a shovel with which to dig in the dirt. It's hands with which to pat seeds of something new into the damp, cool soil, despite it all. I think this is really important. In a world in which we distract ourselves away from how we are feeling, we don't want to look in the dark places. We don't want to look in the eye that which we cannot face, which is a line that I wrote in one of my earlier pieces, that yoga helped me look in the eye that which I could not face, the mistakes that I had made that I didn't want to admit to myself or to others. And when we keep pushing all of those things down, they start to rot inside of you. And they may eventually decompose and go away, but if we could look at ourselves and understand, okay, I'm in a composting era right now, I admit it, it's gonna give you the opportunity to plant those new seeds. It's a magnifying glass to look at what's really going on, and it's hands with which to plant the seed of something new. That's the idea of that one. All right, our final two poems that I've written for you today. And I think I'm going to preface this one instead of speaking about it afterwards. This one is about the feeling of an exceptional yoga class, about the feeling that I love to feel in class, that I search for, this feeling of transcendence, of flow state, and why that happens in certain moments. What makes the magic of the yoga really appear? This one speaks to that, which, by the way, I think is not to say that I do this right every time, but it's one of the things that distinguishes a textbook perfect yoga class from a I can't wait to get back on my mat yoga practice class. There's a certain feeling at the start of class when we step to the top of the mat and close our eyes. If the breath is just right, if the music is just right, the moment becomes extraordinary. Nothing has happened, nothing has changed, but the magic of yoga has set in. Like 1,000 sparks underneath your skin make goosebumps on the surface, your whole being is illuminated like it wasn't moments before. You're going over the top of a roller coaster, and for a moment you are weightless and the world is still. You open your mouth and only the sound of your breath comes out. The outside world fades into a state of focused attention on all that is beautiful. Samastitihi. Now you do not leave. Nothing can stop you now. Kind of intense, but if you know that feeling, the samastitihi feeling, Ashtanga practitioners, rocket practitioners, I'm speaking to you, you probably know what I mean. All right, the very, very final one is one that I shared with my students when I was moving out of Austin, and I was going to go from seeing these people every single week, sometimes multiple times per week, to not knowing when I was going to see them again, aside from the ones who were coming to my retreat, which, yay, I will see you soon. But for everybody else, I don't know how much we're going to stay in contact, right? And I wanted to leave them with the desire to continue, which is always a question of mine, is what can we really leave with our students that keeps the door open for yoga and inspires them to keep coming back? It goes like this. Oh, and by the way, this is the first poem or spoken word, I guess, that I ever read of my own, because I never read things at the end of class. I never read quotes. I don't like when people read quotes necessarily. And for that reason, I had never done it. But I figured, since I wrote this one, it might be nice to do that. So now I've been doing that sometimes, which is crazy, and it makes me really nervous and really awkward for some reason, but it's a growing point for me. It goes, yoga is about learning not to quit. If I thought one class could keep the demons in my mind at bay, I would say yoga doesn't work. If I thought I would go from not being able to touch my toes to standing on my hands quick, I would have quit a long time ago. If I thought yoga was an equation that I could solve, I would have thought I was wasting my time because the solution always comes up undefined. If I thought it was going to be easy, yoga would have been disappointing because it's on the back of 1,000 hours of yoga that breakthroughs are built. Like Rome, yoga isn't built in your body or mind in one day. So don't quit. Stay. Don't quit, dear friends, stay. Stay with your practice, stay with your curiosity, stay with your teaching. As promised, I'm going to end this by sharing the 3 poems that are most inspiring to me this past month, partially because I just want to document them. And I believe so much that what we consume and what we hear and what we listen to really plays a role in who we are being and how we are showing up. And so, yeah, here we are. This first one is by Swami Vivekananda. It's a poem that I actually heard about also from David Swenson in his new book, which don't forget you could win in the giveaway, by the way. But he put this poem at the end of a surf film that he created when he was a teenager. And he went on to do all of this soul searching and do all of these different things, which you'll hear about in the interview, only to come back to his yoga mat over, I think, 12 years later, to stand there again in the same place with the same teacher and realize that even though he had finished all of the series in Ashtanga, and he still felt kind of incomplete, and he still felt like he needed to explore and discover the meaning of life, he had everything that he needed all along. It speaks to that idea, which is the irony, because he already knew of this quote. He already chose it and put it at the end of the film, and he was very aware of this quote beforehand. But it wasn't until much later that its meaning sunk in. After long searches here and there, in temples and in churches, in earths and in heavens, at last you come back, completing the circle from where you started to your own soul, and find that he for whom you have been seeking all over the world, for whom you have been weeping and praying in churches and temples, on whom you were looking as the mystery of all mysteries, shrouded in the clouds, is the nearest of the near, is your own self, the reality of your life, body, and soul. That is your own nature. Pretty good, right? You might have to go back and listen to it one more time so you can capture this idea of what is the nearest of the near. I love that phrasing. What we're looking for is the nearest of the near. The second of the 3 poems is the longest of the 3. It's called The Invitation by Oriah Mountain Dreamer. It goes, it doesn't interest me what you do for a living. I want to know what you ache for and if you dare to dream of meeting your heart's longing. It doesn't interest me how old you are. I want to know if you will risk looking like a fool for love, for your dream, or for the adventure of being alive. It doesn't interest me what planets are squaring your moon. I want to know if you have touched the center of your own sorrow, if you have been opened by life's betrayals or have become shriveled and closed from fear of further pain. I want to know if you can sit with pain, mine or your own, without moving to hide it or fade it or fix it. I want to know if you can be with joy, mine or your own, if you can dance with wildness and let the ecstasy fill you to the tips of your fingers and toes without cautioning us to be careful, be realistic, or remember the limitations of being human. It doesn't interest me if the story you are telling me is true. I want to know if you can disappoint another to be true to yourself, if you can bear the accusation of betrayal and not betray your own soul, if you can be faithless and therefore trustworthy. I want to know if you can see beauty even when it is not pretty every day, and if you can source your own life from its presence. I want to know if you can live with failure, yours and mine, and still stand at the edge of the lake and shout to the silver full moon, yes. It doesn't interest me where you live or how much money you have. I want to know if you can get up after the night of grief and despair, weary and bruised to the bone, and do what needs to be done to feed the children. It doesn't interest me who you know or how you came to be here. I want to know if you will stand in the center of the fire with me and not shrink back. It doesn't interest me where or what or with whom you have studied. I want to know what sustains you from the inside when all else falls away. I want to know if you can be alone with yourself and if you truly like the company you keep in the empty moments. Even just that one piece could be an entire episode. I'm just gonna leave it as it is. No comment on that one. The last one, I'm going to give you the commentary before I set you free. This is the poem with which I'm going to set you free now, which is about starting with what you can do. Because I know when we're talking about yoga can change the world and you can teach the best class ever and you can get up in the mornings and feel like you have a reason and an inspiration and a passion and a zest for life, it can feel like, that is so far away from my current reality. And I will tell you, I've been there. But we cannot get lost looking up at the top of the mountain. We've got to look down at our own 2 feet. And this is a poem of looking down at our own 2 feet. Start Close In by David Whyte. Start close in. Don't take the second step or the third. Start with the first thing close in, the step you do not want to take. Start with the ground you know, the pale ground beneath your feet, your own way to begin the conversation. Start with your own question. Give up on other people's questions. Don't let them smother something simple. To hear another's voice, follow your own voice. Wait until that voice becomes an intimate, private ear that can really listen to another. Start right now. Take a small step you can call your own. Don't follow someone else's heroics. Be humble and focused. Start close in. Don't mistake that other for your own. Start close in. Don't take the second step or the third. Start with the first thing close in, the step you don't want to take. Start close in. Don't take the second step or the third. Start with the first thing close in, the step you do not want to take. So start close in, my dear friends, with all of this, and I hope that this episode has served to at least be a little bit of guidance, some wind under your wings, this gentle feeling of being propelled forward in your mission and your ideas and your daydreams, perhaps, at this point. And if it has, please take a moment to drop me a rating, to subscribe to my show, to share my show with somebody that you think would resonate with it. That is how I'm able to be here, spending the time that I do, bringing all of these ideas through to you. So I deeply appreciate you for doing that. Please also remember that you can check out my sponsors. They're good people. I'm sending you all of the love and all of the power. And I will catch you in the next episode. Nos vemos. Ciao, ciao.